Today, we are diving into a story that's become a modern legend. We're talking about a lion coalition that completely rewrote the rules in South Africa's Sabi sand. Seriously, their story is an incredible saga of brotherhood, just unbelievable brutality, and, like all great empires, its inevitable fall.
You hear these words thrown around all the time when you talk about the Mopogo lions, and they fit. They weren't just kings, they were tyrants. This wasn't just a pride, it was an army that carved its name into the history books with pure, raw violence.
And the whole incredible story really boils down to this one number, 6. 6 brothers, a band that came together to form a coalition so powerful, so absolutely dominant, that they would control a huge territory through nothing but sheer, terrifying force for years.
So you have to ask, right? How does a coalition like this even happen? Where do they come from? Well, their story doesn't actually begin with conquest. It starts with a really unique and powerful family bond, forged right in the heart of the famous Sparta Pride.
Okay, so it all starts with the big one, Mopogo, born back in '98. He was a bit of an outsider who ended up joining the Sparta Pride, where his 5 younger half-brothers lived. Fast forward to 2004, their fathers are gone, and Mopogo, as the older, tougher brother, steps up. He spent 2 solid years basically training them, turning them into this unstoppable unit, and by 2006, they were ready. The 6 of them left home and set out to take over the world.
All right, let's meet the crew, because they were a cast of characters. You had Mopogo, the big one. He was the brains, the leader. Then you had the muscle. Oh man, did you have the muscle. Mr. T, so savage he was nicknamed Satan, and his partner in crime, Kinky Tail, aka the War Machine. Backing them up was Dreadlocks, built like a tank. And finally, you had the twins, Pretty Boy and Rasta. Every single one of them had a critical role to play in the empire they were about to build.
Now, with their brotherhood forged, the Mopogos didn't just go looking for territory. No, they waged all-out war on the Sabi sand. Their reign would go down as one of the most violent and dominant periods ever recorded for lions. Ever.
Just look at this number to understand the scale of what they did. It's estimated they killed over 100 other lions, and that includes cubs. This wasn't just about fighting off rivals. This was about completely annihilating any and all competition. They literally changed the landscape and the lion dynamics of the entire region.
Their playbook was just brutal and brutally effective. They'd roll into a new area with so much force, no one could stop them. Any male lions who dared to stand and fight were killed. They systematically wiped out all the cubs from previous bloodlines to make way for their own. And get this, they would even kill lionesses who got in the way of that. It was this ruthless strategy that let them take over nearly 80% of the Sabi sand. I mean, that's just an insane amount of territory for one coalition to hold.
But here's the thing. When you have an empire that massive, you can't be everywhere at once. It's just impossible. The pressure of defending that much land led them to make a strategic decision that, in the end, would seal their fate. The coalition had to split up.
And this is how they split the kingdom. Over in the west, you had Mopogo leading the other 3 brothers, Dreadlocks, Rasta, and Pretty Boy. Their job was stability, hold territory, raise cubs, keep things steady. But the east was a completely different story. That was held by the 2 most aggressive brothers, Mr. T and Kinky Tail, and their territory became the violent, chaotic front line of the entire empire.
People called Mr. T and Kinky Tail this for a very, very good reason. They were a 2-lion wrecking crew patrolling that eastern border. They were the shield, the guard dogs of the empire, constantly fighting off rival coalitions, trying to push in from all sides. They were pure aggression, and they were terrifyingly good at their job. For years, this strategy actually worked. But all that constant war on the Eastern Front eventually brought Mr. T and Kinky Tail face to face with a new, younger, and very ambitious force, a coalition of 5 brothers called the Majingalani. And this clash, this was the beginning of the end.
The whole thing kicked off in June of 2010. First, Mr. T and Kinky Tail caught the youngest Majingalani brother alone and killed him. It was a brutal warning. But the Majingalani brothers learned from it. Instead of running scared, they came back just days later. And they came back with a plan. They used tactics to separate Kinky Tail from his much more dangerous brother, Mr. T.
And even for a warrior like Kinky Tail, the odds were just impossible. He fought like a demon, but 4 against 1, he was overwhelmed. And this is where it gets really gruesome.
The Mopogo brothers didn't just kill him. As the ultimate act of vengeance, they began to eat him while he was still alive. For the very first time, a Mopogo brother had fallen. The invincible empire suddenly wasn't so invincible anymore.
You see, the death of Kinky Tail wasn't just losing a brother. It was like a signal flare went up for every other lion in the Sabi sand. It showed that the gods could bleed. That first crack in the armor spread fast, and the once mighty empire began to fall apart with shocking speed. And man, did it fall apart fast. After Kinky Tail was killed in June 2010, the dominoes just started to fall. Later that same year, Rasta just vanished on patrol. Then Dreadlocks was poached, probably killed by humans. Less than 2 years after that, the warrior Mr. T finally fell in battle to a new coalition. And by the end of 2012, Pretty Boy, one of the twins, died from illness. In just over 2 years, 5 of the 6 were gone.
But we have to talk about Mr. T's final stand. It was legendary. When 4 new lions, the Salati Mels, invaded, the last of the Mopogos were old and injured. It's believed that Mr. T charged those 4 rivals all by himself. A final act of defiance. He basically sacrificed himself so his older brothers, Mopogo and Pretty Boy, could get away. He fought until the very end. He went out on his own terms, like a true warrior.
And then there was one. The whole empire had crumbled, leaving only the lion who started it all, Mopogo. And his final chapter? Well, it's a pretty powerful story about the true costs of power and the incredible endurance of brotherhood.
Just try to imagine that. After leading this unstoppable force for years, Mopogo was now a nomad, walking alone through the very lands he used to rule. He was the founder, and now the last survivor. He'd seen the entire rise and the entire fall of his kingdom and his family. But even in his final days, Mopogo's greatness was obvious. He stayed right by his last brother, Pretty Boy, taking care of him even though he was sick. He was once seen taking down a huge buffalo all by himself just to feed him. Then, at the incredible age of 15, he was last seen in March 2013, walking, head held high, right into Kruger National Park. And he just disappeared into legend.
So that's the big question they leave behind, isn't it? Their legacy is written in blood, for sure, but it's also a story of fierce loyalty, of an unbreakable bond that let 6 brothers conquer their world. So what do you think? Were they just mindless, brutal killers? Or were they something more? The ultimate example of what it really takes to be a king in the wild.